Hello everyone, and welcome to this video project for our class on interpersonal communication. My name is John Kuert, and if you'll look at the first slide, you'll see that I've entitled this presentation Living Life to the Fullest, which is what I try to do every day. And I believe that what I've learned in this course, HSCO 508, is going to help me do that even better. Here's a brief overview of what I'm going to share. So if you'll move to the next slide, you can see that I'm going to articulate my overarching goal for life, show how my behavioral blend influences my communication, look at a couple of communication challenges and the resources to overcome them, and finally present an action plan. Now before I do all that, let me tell you a little bit more about myself. In the next slide you'll see that I'm from Pittsburgh, married to my wife Sandy for 47 years. I have 2 kids, 4 grandkids, and there's a picture of my clan. And I'm a retired pastor. Now, I could sit around and be a couch potato or engage in a bunch of fun activities that retirees usually do, but that's just not me. At my core, I always want to do something meaningful to help people. So I decided to enroll at Liberty University to get this master's degree in human services in order to start a little counseling center in our community, which I think will be very fulfilling and help me to live out my days with purpose. As a retiree, I'm at the point in my life where I have more years behind me than I have in front of me. I've had my ups and downs, but I've been extremely blessed and have had a wonderful life. On the next slide, you'll see a quality scale of 1 to 10. And I'd say that I've had about a 9.5 in life, even though I've faced some great difficulties. Looking back, life's been good to me. But I'm not living in the past, so however many years I have left in life, I want to live life to the fullest. I have 0.5 to go to make it a perfect 10. Now, one of the things that Stuart said in his book, Bridges Not Walls, sums up my overarching goal for the remaining years of my life, whether it's 10 or 20 or 30 years, which would take me to the 100-year-old mark. In the next slide, you'll see that he said, the quality of your communication affects the quality of your life. It affects everything. And another article on the centrality of communication concludes it is vital to the development of the whole person. So my goal in the years I have left is to really improve my interpersonal communication skills that will help me achieve a life of even greater quality than I've had to this point. The results from the Uniquely You report indicated that my behavioral blends, as you can see on the next slide, are determined doer in the section titled This is Expected of Me, and in the second part titled This is Me, I'm an IDS, inspiring, driving, submissive. I've always been dominant, direct, determined, professionally and privately. As a determined doer, I always wanted to accomplish things, and as a visionary, once I had my mind set on doing something, I wanted to get it done, and the sooner the better. And then I would try to inspire and motivate others to join me, which is also a trait of the IDS personality. However, when people didn't get on board fast enough, if you look at the next slide, that's when my communication style became a bit pushy and manipulative, even though I always tried to be tactful. These strong traits helped me accomplish many goals, but at times caused relationships and interpersonal communication to suffer. However, as a people person, I believe I tempered the D in me with a sensitivity toward others because I have a pastor's heart, which is why, as Carbonell's report says, people were sometimes confused and didn't know how to take me. I think what saved me when I crossed the line was I would always ask forgiveness. Like King David, I'm a good repenter. Throughout this course, as I read the text and completed the assignments, I've identified 2 communication challenges that I want to work on. First, and you see this in the next slide, is I want to listen better. According to Burley Allen, cultivating listening skills has a definite connection to improved relationships, a greater sense of self-awareness, professional success, and gaining influence, as well as effective communication. Interestingly enough, I always considered myself to be a good listener. But when I took the listening assessment exercise in the Burley Allen text, I was actually a little below average. So I want to move up from being average and be better at relating by being better at listening. One article on relational listening said a fundamental goal of listening involves connecting with others emotionally and attempting to understand how they feel. I know it'll take great effort to listen mindfully and empathically, but I believe it'll be well worth it. Stuart's metaphor of breathing to illustrate communication was very insightful, using inhaling to represent listening and exhaling to represent talking, which you can see on the next slide. Most often when we think of improving communication, it's common to think that we must first work on exhaling or talking. Stuart, however, puts a reverse spin on this as he makes the point that just as inhaling comes first in breathing, so the intake of listening and perception should be where we start if we really want to improve communication. So for me, listening is going to be a priority. The second communication challenge is, on the next slide, I want to respond and not react. I'm going to work on talking without accusing, attacking, labeling, or judging. I'm tired of being bogged down in what Peterson calls the flat brain syndrome. I want to try to respond more thoughtfully and less emotionally. I want to do more nexting, which Stuart says is the most important single communication skill. He defines it as doing something helpful next, responding fruitfully to what just happened, being creative rather than retaliatory. I really thought all of the resources used in this course were very informative and will be helpful going forward to improve and enlarge my conversations, and thus improve my relationships and the overall quality of my life. Carbonell's book, How to Solve the People Puzzle, and his Uniquely You report helped me understand myself better. If you look at the next slide, and I've taken similar tests in the past, but reading the book and doing all the assignments have made an indelible impression on me that I believe will continue to impact me beyond this class. It has helped reinforce the positive characteristics like my drive to accomplish things and made me focus on the weak areas, like paying more attention to the details. Stuart's book, on the other hand, is so versatile with so many good insights because of all the various authors. However, there was one quote, and you see this on the next slide, that impacted me and continues to make me think. He said, in every conversation, you're not only expressing your ideas, but also defining who you are. I've often expressed myself in ways that proved my point, but have done it in a way that defined me as being too intense, stubborn, impatient, reactionary. Just as we learned as kids to look both ways before crossing the street, I'm going to try to be more deliberate in how I communicate, looking both ways before I jump into the street of conversation. The two things I want to do strategically to work on communication challenges are on the next slide. First of all, review and apply principles from the course and continue to grow in interpersonal communication. In the last presentation, Dr. Nixon said, we can pack up the books now and end this as an academic exercise or begin a new interpersonal communication journey. And I want to do that. And secondly, my wife and I have made a pledge to keep each other accountable so we don't end up in a degenerative spiral like Catherine and Caleb in the movie Fireproof. And we have the advantage of having our home as a kind of a communication lab. And finally, on this last slide, and I can think of no better way to end this presentation and this course than to quote the scripture from James 1:19. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Thank you. And the references are on the final slide of the PowerPoint.